Alrighty, I'm going to admit everybody.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. As everyone starts to trickle in, we'd love to hear where you're joining from today, what part of the world, what part of the globe you are at currently.
Jace, and I'm in Tracy, California.
Amazing. You can go ahead and just put it in the chat. Good to see you, Jace. Good to see you, Sheila. And just for sound quality purposes, I'm actually going to mute everyone, but please do keep filtering through your questions and comments in the chat. Good to see you, Sid. Hi, LaTanya. Always fun to see some familiar faces. Amazing, amazing. We'll get started soon.
Salt Lake City. Riley, we forgot to tell you, Learn It's going to be taking on Salt Lake City soon.
Oh, Riley, you're muted. Shoot.
It's a good place to be.
We're really excited.
I like to keep it a secret unless I'm bringing in good friends, because then they go, "Oh my God, this is a great place."
Be fun. Oh, Paul's in Elk Grove. My parents live right by there, Paul. That's awesome.
My brother lived in Tracy for a long time, Tracy, California. There's San Jose, that's close too.
Mm-hmm. We got a lot of Bay Area people today. And actually, while we have another minute, if you share what you're drinking this morning. Is it tea, coffee? What's in your mug? You can put it in the chat. We'll get started in about 30 seconds. Hi, Peter Paul. Hi, Lena. Thanks for being here. Water, good for people staying hydrated. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here on this sunny Friday morning. I'm in San Diego, California. My name is Carly. If I haven't met you already, I am our Director of Programming for Community and Events here at Learn It. And with me, I have our Community Events Coordinator, Marissa Ruiz, who many of you are familiar with if you've been attending week over week. And we're so excited to have the amazing Riley Jensen here with us as well, CEO and Lead Performance Coach, who will introduce shortly. But before we kind of get started and jump into today's program around how to perform like an athlete, again, we just want to welcome you. So if you're new to Learn It and these programs, welcome. We're a learning and development organization based out of San Francisco, California. And our goal really is to, one, through these community events, make learning and development and career growth more accessible to everybody. And we work with individuals and companies at large really to upskill on tech skills and the soft skills needed to thrive in today's workplace and really in today's economy and the economy of tomorrow. So we thank you for being here. If you are a Learn It customer, client, regular community member, welcome back. We're thrilled to have you. And a little bit of context around how these sessions work. Again, we do weekly community events around a monthly theme. This month's theme is the athlete's mindset. So we're focusing a lot around how we can all apply the skills, the mindset, and tools that athletes use to perform better and excel to our daily lives in really work, life, and play in all aspects of being a human. And these sessions are led by subject matter experts and guest speakers like Riley. So without further ado, I want to welcome and introduce all of you to Riley Jensen. Riley is the lead mental performance coach for Real Salt Lake, Weber State, and Utah State University. He also tutors various athletes at the pro, collegiate, and high school level, and also corporate athletes. So actually our very own Andrew Gale was mentored by Riley, and that's how we were able to get connected. And Andrew is just an amazing person and had nothing but good things to say about his experience being mentored and coached by Riley. Riley has 25 plus years of experience playing and coaching high school and collegiate football. So he's been an athlete himself and has sat in both seats. And he also has his master's in sports and performance psychology at the University of Utah. And he also runs his own performance group as well. And so is a CEO and founder by nature. So with that, I want to welcome Riley and take it away. I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Carly. And thank you, Marissa, for taking time to introduce me. I am, I guess I'm kind of an athlete junkie by trade. I grew up in a home of teachers. My father was a teacher. My mom was a teacher, but my dad was also a coach. He was the tennis coach at Utah State University when I was growing up. I broke his heart in 9th grade by playing high school baseball and chasing after baseball and some other sports. But I think I've always been his guinea pig as far as sports psychology goes. And anyway, long story short, I ended up playing football back at Utah State University after we had moved away to another job for my father. And I played football there. I coached at a small, really, really good junior college by the name of Snow College. And then I coached at North Carolina State University for a couple of years. And so my background was in mostly in football, but I played football, basketball, baseball, tennis. And I've always been interested in the mindset of high achievers. And I think that's what eventually led me to this profession and where I'm at today. So if you have any questions as far as mindset, sports psychology, relaxation, sport anxiety, control, some of the different things or topics that we talk about today, please put them in the chat and I'll do my best to respond to those at the end of this conversation. And then if you want to, just feel free to interrupt me in any part of this, and we can address some questions as well. I want this to be a little bit more interactive than maybe just me talking for 45 minutes and then just answering questions. So if there's a question that you have, I'll do my best to look at it and to help. So with that, with my background, I just wanted to introduce what I've done in the past. One of my favorite experiences that I ever had was working with Philip Rivers, who just retired from the NFL. One of the greatest individuals that I've ever met. I know that he gets a little bit of a bad reputation for being a smack talker in the NFL, but this is a guy who is married his high school sweetheart at 19 years old. I'm not sure that I've ever heard him say a curse word, which is a lot better than I've done just this week. And was just an amazing and motivating person. And I think being around great people, I mean, I tell people all the time, it's important to sit with winners because the conversation's different. And I really am grateful for the time that I've had interacting with pro athletes at this point in my career, and then someone like Philip Rivers clear back early in my career, because I think it's had a huge impact. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all, and I'm just going to kind of start down this path. I'm hoping that this will be some topics that are fairly interesting to you, and I'll try and throw in some science and throw in some different things that will be helpful to all of us as a group. So the topic of my conversation this morning is really like how to perform like an athlete. And the greatest athletes, they really understand the following principles that we're going to talk about today. The first thing that I think is super important for us to understand is that we give power to what we focus on, and what we focus on expands. And one of the examples that I give to a lot of the people that I work with is, if you were to go out today and you were to buy a yellow car, the first thing that you would notice after you purchased your yellow car is how many yellow cars there are on the road. And you would be like, wow, I thought I bought like kind of a unique color. I thought this would be something that'd be different, that would be, kind of, and all you'll see for the next 2 weeks is yellow cars. I had this exact experience just a couple of years ago. I bought my wife a Honda Pilot. It was kind of this charcoal gray color. And I kid you not, I had no idea, but there were like 15 Honda Pilots just in my neighborhood. I'm talking about within like a half a mile of my house that had the exact same make and model as my car. And it just shows you that I wasn't really focused on that. I might have been subliminally, but I just wasn't focused on that sort of thing. And it was really interesting how my wife was like, oh my gosh, everybody in our neighborhood has the exact same car. And so there's real power to this. So what does that mean to us in our everyday? Well, what it means is that it's really important that we frame our story in a way that's beneficial to us and beneficial to others. It means that if we're constantly focused on the bad, if we're constantly focused on the negative, if we're constantly focused on all the bad things that are happening to us, and bad things happen to everyone, not just you. If you're constantly focused on the negative, then that's what you'll see. And you'll find the story that you're searching for. And it's very, very key for us to understand that. But on the other end of the spectrum is that if you focus on the good, if you focus on the small blessings, if you have gratitude, and by the way, gratitude isn't just a church principle, it's a very scientific principle. And there's 7 different items that we get out of being grateful. It will expand, and you will start to notice all the good things that are happening to you. It will build your confidence. It will build your self-esteem. And suddenly you'll realize that there's a lot of good things going in the right direction for you. So it's really, really important, both as an athlete and a corporate athlete, or whatever you're doing in your life, to focus on the things that can be helpful to you mentally and helpful to other people. The next thing that I think is important for people to understand is that marginal improvement can lead to huge impact in your life, in sports, and in everything that you do. Now, Novak Djokovic just recently won another major event in tennis. And hopefully you can see on the screen here, I hope it's big enough for you to see, but we'll go through this. And this is a little bit of an old infographic that I've stolen. I mean, obviously we're in 2021, and this goes up to 2016. But in 2004 and 2005, Novak Djokovic was ranked over 100th in the country. He made about $300,000, which sounds like a great living, and I certainly wouldn't, be upset about $300,000 a year. But when you take into the fact that he's traveling around the world and paying coaches and paying for hotels and paying different fees, that wasn't a lot of money, 4 and 05. The percent of matches that he won was 49%. The percent of points that he won was 49%. And then just 2 years later, he moved up to 3rd in the world in tennis. He made $5 million, and this is not counting sponsorships or anything like that. He won 79% of his matches by improving just 3% of points won. It's really quite fascinating when you think about it. And then 4 years later, he was ranked number 1 in the world. He made $14 million in earnings, not counting endorsements. He won 90% of his matches, and he won 55% of his points. So you can see these were small gains. These were small wins that he took to get to where he wanted. Now, I went one step deeper because I just get interested in these sort of statistics. But in an average tennis match, there's about 60 points per set, or about, I think the average per match was, 60, 120, 180. Per match, you're at about 240 points per match. And in every single match, That's a difference to go to make a 3% improvement. That's only 6 points per match. That means he won 6 points total per match more than he did to improve 3%. Or if you were to break it down even further, per set, he won 2 points more per set than he did when he first started playing tennis. So you can see that in many of you that are listening to this, you're professionals in what you do. Small improvements can lead to huge impact in both what you make, in both your production, and all the different things you're doing. So my challenge to you today as a corporate athlete is to think about what that small marginal improvement could be that could make the difference in your work and in your life, and how could it improve the things that are going on for you. The next slide, I've kind of stolen from James Clear. Many of you have probably read Atomic Habits. If you haven't, it's a great book to read. James Clear is a very smart man, but I think it's a really good slide just to think about getting 1% better every day. So often in our lives, when we're trying to get better, when we're trying to make improvements in our lives, we go from A to Z, or we go from 1 to 60 in a really, really short time, trying to get better as fast as we can. And sometimes that causes paralysis because we feel like it's overwhelming. We feel like it's a lot to do. And so constantly with athletes, I'm trying to promote this idea of getting 1% better, just 1% better every day. There's 2 reasons why this is a really, really good idea. One, you're trying to get 1% better than you were yesterday, not 1% better than someone else, not 1% better than 25 years ago version of you, but 1% better than you were yesterday. And if you can do that, if you can stay focused on just getting 1% better, number one, it becomes a reasonable goal. And number 2, you start to build a habit that gets you going in the right direction. And you can see on the right, the graphic there that I stole from James Clear, it's compound interest for self-improvement. If you get 1% better every single day, by the end of the year, you'd be about 38% better than you were at the start of the year. And I can tell you this, my wife would really appreciate it if I was 38% better by the end of this year than what we started. And so I'm working on 1% better every day. But you can see, here's the interesting part about this graph. If you get 1% worse today and you did it all year, you're only going to be about 0.03% worse than you were the year before. So when I look at this graph, what it tells me is we don't need to get so upset or get so concerned about a bad day or about a bad week, because really the compound interest for getting worse is a lot less than the compound interest for getting better. So just get a little bit better today than you were yesterday. My father used to tell me, hey, every generation a little bit better than the last. If you can just be a little bit better than me, if you can just be a little bit better person than me, a little bit better athlete, a little bit better worker, a little bit better person, then that's something I could be very, very proud of. And he always ingrained that in us, and I really loved that lesson as I was growing up. Next, we have the parable of the bamboo. And I don't know, Marissa, if this is a place where we can maybe turn on people's mics or let them comment here for a second. But how many of you know how long it takes for bamboo to grow? Does anybody know?
Oh, like days?
Yeah.
It's quick.
So yeah, so
something like doubling every 3 days.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of time that it grows very, very fast. Anybody else have any thoughts on how long it takes to grow bamboo?
I've just heard that there's forests that are so quiet that you can hear the bamboo growing. It grows that fast. You can hear the sound of it growing.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for your comments. So interestingly enough, whenever I talk about the parable of the bamboo, I get people that say, oh my gosh, bamboo, it really takes a long time to grow. And then I'll get somebody that says, oh, it grows really, really fast. And the answer for me is yes. The answer is yes, that's true. It does take a long time, and it does take a short time. Because the truth of bamboo is this. is it usually takes about 5 years for a bamboo tree to break the surface. So a person who's growing a forest or is trying to grow some bamboo, there's a lot of work that goes into it in the beginning. And in the first year, they'll go out, they'll make sure that it gets enough sunshine, they'll put the right kind of fertilizer on it, they'll water it just right, they'll do everything that they can, and nothing shows up. Second year, the same. Third year, often they'll change the fertilizer and they'll dump a whole bunch of different crap on top of this bamboo. And they'll try and see if they can get it to grow and stimulate it to grow, and it doesn't happen. Fourth year, the same thing, different fertilizer, different crap that's being thrown on it. And then on the fifth year, almost to the day, a bamboo tree will break through the surface, and in 6 weeks, the bamboo forest will grow to 90 feet. So Damien, when you made that comment, I think you probably could hear the bamboo growing in a quiet forest because it's growing so fast. And that's why we get the impression that bamboo grows so fast, is because once it breaks the surface, it really does. And there's a quote from Messi, the great soccer player, and I'm obviously, I have a little bit of affinity towards soccer now with my current job, who was very, very offended by the fact that somebody called him an overnight success. He had made it, to the international level and playing soccer on a high level at 17 years. And he said, yeah, 17 years, 343 days of hard work. Yeah, that's overnight success. He was very offended by it because he had worked really, really hard to get to where he was. And there was a lot of work. There was a lot of crap that was dumped on him. There was a lot of fertilizer. There was a lot of water. There was a lot of different things that happened. And so the great ones are patient when they don't see immediate results, when they don't see that instant gratification that says, oh, you're the best, or oh, you're great. And so what we're working for is this thought process that great things take time. And I tell athletes all the time, anything worthwhile in our lives takes a little bit longer and is a little bit more difficult than anticipated. And that's what makes it so sweet in the end. Let me repeat that. Anything worthwhile takes a little bit longer and is a little bit more difficult than anticipated. And if we can have the mindset that good things are coming, that there are great things to come in our lives, and that if we just keep going just a little bit further and a little bit longer and hang in there just a little bit more, then comes the parable of the bamboo into our house and into our lives. And soon we have this beautiful, lush and green forest all around us from all the hard work that we put in. And so be patient with yourself, be patient with others, and it can be a great blessing to your life. Sorry. I don't know. Sorry guys, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen for a second. Seems to be something going on here.
You're all good, Riley. And the slides were changing. Let's see. Yeah, the slides are changing on our end, just so you know.
I know, I'm trying to, hold on for a second.
Everyone, while we're doing that, if there are any questions you have, please feel free to put them in the chat, or we can take this moment if you have a question you want to come off mute as well.
Okay, so I'm coming back. We should be all right now. So the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is just this formula. And trust me, I've never been a great math guy. I worked hard at math and received good grades, but math wasn't my favorite subject. So when I put a formula up on the board, I don't want anyone to get scared by it, because if I can interpret it, so can you. But E plus R equals O. This is something that's very much used in our field. I believe that we stole it from a man by the name of Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is a fantastic book. And I'll refer back to him in just a moment. But he said stimulus plus response equals outcome. In sports psychology, I think we've adapted it to the event plus reaction equals outcome. And this simply means this: we all have things that happen to us. We all have things and events that come into our lives that we have to react to, that it's important for us to react correctly to. And when we react correctly, it has a direct impact on the outcome. But if you look at this formula, it's interesting because we have no control over the events that happen to us, and we don't have any control over the outcomes. We can influence the outcome, but we don't have control over the final outcome. But we have complete control over our reaction to things. And Viktor Frankl, just to go back to him just a little bit, he survived Auschwitz, which is perhaps the worst place that's ever existed in the history of this earth, right? And I'm sure that there's some other places that we could put up there to compete with it, but we would probably all agree that it's one of the worst places that's ever existed. And he wanted to make sense of why some of his people in this area and in this particular concentration camp were able to have happiness or were completely sad and destitute, and why there was such a great variance in their attitudes and in their thought processes while they were in Auschwitz. And he believes this: in that moment, in between event and reaction, right where that plus sign is, whether it's 0.5 seconds, whether it's 5 days, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 5 nanoseconds, we all have the opportunity to choose our reaction. And we all should choose wisely. He says it's the greatest of all freedoms, that no matter what happened while he was in Auschwitz, that the Nazis could not control his reaction to things. Only he had control of the reaction. And so my thought today, or my hope for you today, is that if Viktor Frankl can control his reaction in one of the worst places ever to exist, you certainly can control your reaction with your family, on the ball field, in the workplace, wherever it is. And it's up to us to choose our reaction, because we have complete control over our reaction to things. And that's really, really important to understand. Did the slide move for you, Carly?
We have not, no, not yet.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing is, the great ones know how to stay in the moment. One of the things that I talk to athletes about on a daily basis is time travel. So typically when it comes to time travel, a good marker that we're flying into the past is we use the words woulda, coulda, shoulda. And, I call this Uncle Rico syndrome, right, from Napoleon Dynamite, where it's like, man, if they just would have put me in back in 1984, we would have won the state championship, no doubt in my mind, right? We're living in the past. We're thinking about failures that happened to us or things that didn't go right. And one of the markers of flying into the future is the phrase, what if? Well, what if my coach hates me? What if my boss fires me? What if my friends don't like me? What if my family doesn't approve? Whatever it is, right? We fly into the future with what ifs, and we fly into the past with woulda, coulda, shouldas. Well, for us to compete and to perform at the highest level, we can't be in those places if we truly want to control our body and if we truly want to control our performance. So oftentimes we use the phrase in sports psychology, be where your feet are. If you can be right here in this appointment, in this little session with us today, and really take part in it and really interact in it, it's going to be much better than if all you're thinking about is like, well, I've got a 4 o'clock appointment today and I got to get this ready and I got to do that, because we're not in the right place. We've already flown into the future, right? And a really, really good way to bring yourself back to the moment is to use the acronym WIN, W-I-N, and it stands for what's important now. So when good things happen to you, when bad things happen to you, no matter what happens to you, a great way to bring yourself right back into the moment is to ask yourself the question, what's important now? What's important right here, right now? And the great ones master this. They understand how to get into the moment. They ask themselves the question, what's important now? And we won't go into this further, But another great way and another great technique to bring yourself into the moment is to get hyper focused on your breathing. Really concentrate for the next 3 minutes on your breathing. What does it smell like? What does it feel like when you take a deep breath? Is it refreshing? Is it more refreshing than the last breath? Is it more refreshing than 2 breaths ago? How does your breath feel? And if you can get hyper focused on your breath, it's a great way to bring yourself right back into the moment. And the great ones do it so well. There's so many instances where you can watch the great athletes taking a deep breath at the free throw line, a deep breath before a putt, a deep breath before a great speech that they give. Breathing can be something that really brings you into the moment. This is one of the favorites that I share with most of the people that I talk to. And I laugh really hard sometimes because I'm a little bit critical of coaches that say, well, what you got to do is you got to go out there, you got to control the controllables. If you control the controllables, then we know exactly what to do. We can win this game. But they never talk about what the controllables are. They never talk about it. So for me, if you look at this little graph here, on the outside of the circle are very typical things that we can't control. We can't control our coworkers. We can't control our health. We can't control coaches or bosses. We can't control the judges or the referees that are in our lives. We can't control our opponents or our rivals. We can't control the weather, our family, injuries. We can't control the past. There's a lot of things that we can't control. And my guess is that all of you within the last week have spent time stressing about something that's on the outside of that circle, on the outside of the circle. Now, the controllables are things like our attitude. They're the things like effort. We can control our sleep, how consistent our sleep is, how long we sleep, our nutrition, our coachability, our enthusiasm, our preparation, our communication, work ethic. We just talked about reaction and our hustle. And we can control the present moment. These are really, really important things. Now, when I talk to athletes and when I talk to coaches about this, I'll say, well, how much of these how much time do you spend on the red words and how much time do you spend on the teal words on the inside of the circle? And they're like, 60-40, 90-10, 10-90, whatever it is, right? And I would make this argument. If you are spending time worrying about things that are outside of the circle, you are wasting time. You are not being productive if you're worried about things that are on the outside of the circle. So what to do? Well, one of the things that I tell athletes is if you find yourself stressed about teammates or coworkers or referees or something like that, get hyper focused on one thing that's inside of the circle. You don't have to focus on all of those, but you could really get focused on your enthusiasm today and just be an enthusiastic person all day. And you will see your anxiety go down. Now, one thing that's interesting about performance, and that's what I study is sport and performance psychology, is anxiety and confidence are inversely proportional. As your anxiety goes up, your confidence and performance goes down. As your anxiety goes down, your confidence and performance goes up. And so if we can do something like a breathing technique, like meditation, to just turn down the volume on our anxiety and move our anxiety in this direction, our confidence and our performance goes up. So use that volume. Use that ability to get into the moment to help your anxiety go down. Use that ability to focus on your breath to help that anxiety go down. And use that ability to meditate or to pray or whatever else it is that you're into to put that anxiety in a downward motion so that your confidence and your performance can go up. And you can control your life in a lot of ways if you stay hyper-focused on those words that are in teal. How important is sleep? We just talked about sleep. This is just a quick graph. Athletes today, the great ones are getting almost 9 hours of sleep per day. There was a study at Stanford that happened in 2011 where the Stanford basketball team went from 6.6 hours of sleep to 8.1 hours of sleep in just 6 weeks. They improved their speed by 5%. They improved their free throw percent shooting by 9%. And they improved their three-point shooting percentage by 9.2%. These are incredible statistics, right? The science of this is unbelievable, that just from going from 6.5 hours of sleep to 8.1, they were able to improve in speed and focus and concentration. They even make arguments that sleep, in some ways, if you can get on top of it and if you can make it your friend, that it's more impactful than anabolic steroids to an athlete. And it's really incredible. And there's all kinds of benefits here. I mean, you look at it here, if you average 9 hours of sleep, you're 3 times less likely to get a sports injury than if you're only getting about 6 hours of sleep per night. Another statistic that I find super, super just interesting here is if you look at this in 2015, some of you may or may not be familiar with Andre Iguodala, but he was the 2015 NBA Finals MVP, and he really transformed his career by getting 8+ hours of sleep each night. And these were the difference in 2015 to 2016. His points per minute went up by 29%. This is unbelievable. These are unbelievable statistics. His increase in minutes played went up by 12%. His increase in free throw percentage, just like the Stanford athletes, went up about 9%. His increase in three-point percentage wasn't quite as good as the Stanford study, but it still went up 2%. And then when you look at the errors, or the what we call focus or concentration errors, his decrease in fouls committed, he committed 45% less fouls than he did before, and his turnovers went down by 37%. Really, these statistics about sleep just go on and on and on and on. And the Stanford study went on to study the swim team. It went on to study a lot of different teams in hopes of figuring out exactly what kind of effect sleep is. And in every instance, sleep has had a major impact on performance. So if you want to perform well, get to sleep each night for 8 hours and make it as consistent as possible. I have alpine athletes, one that's going, I have 4 that are going to the Olympics right now for alpine skiing, one from America, one from Norway, one from Australia, and one from Canada. And they actually lay their sleep times over the top of their performances so that they can get the ideal amount of sleep for each athlete. And it's different for each athlete, but they're literally measuring that every single day as they're preparing for the Olympics. So it's a really, really fascinating thing right now going on with sleep. The next slide is the great ones know how to act. I tell people all the time, athletes, corporate athletes, everybody, that even if you're not in sales, you're in sales. Your nonverbal cues, your nonverbal discussions that you have with people speak so loud that they can't hear a word that you're saying. It's really, really important that we stand, that we interact in a good position. If you get a chance, go watch the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy on body language, because it's really, really fascinating information. But there's a couple of things that you need to know. And I always laugh when I hear this phrase, because whenever I hear the phrase chin up, I always hear it in an English accent, like chin up, mate. Like keep your chin up. We've all said it. We've all done it. We've all heard it, chin up. Well, they've actually done a study recently on the level of your chin and what sort of chemicals are being released into your body. And they found out that if you release, or if you drop your chin below 90 degrees, you release cortisol into your system, which is the stress hormone. It's the hormone that makes us lazy. It's the hormone that makes us unable to move and to make action or make good decisions. And if your chin is at 90 degrees or above, there's dopamine, there's serotonin, and there's oxytocin that are released into our system. And they're all really, really good drugs for us, naturally produced, that help us to perform at a high level, right? And so I know you're listening to me going, well, dopamine's not good for you. Well, it can be, depending on how it's produced, right? It also can be addictive, and that's where it can be trouble. Be careful with your chin level. Stand with your chin up, your shoulders back, and your chest out when you're making presentations to people. It releases different chemicals. It helps you to feel better about yourself and more confident. It lowers your stress level, and we know that's inversely proportional to confidence and anxiety, or to confidence and performance, right? So stand tall, be smart about it, and do what you can to be in good body language. Now, think about this. In 2012, cell phones saturated the market with over 50% market share. And what do we all do when we drop our chins I just gave it away. We all drop our chins to look at the phone, right? So the answer isn't to look at your phone this way, right? The answer is to look at your phone less, right? And get your chin up. Get your body language in a good position so that when you're talking to people, that you're feeling more confident and that you'll perform in a better way. I just love this phrase when I'm talking with athletes. Many of you here are corporate athletes or have been athletes in the past, and it's really important to understand that the pressure that you feel is a privilege. You earned this privilege. People didn't ask you to be in the position that you're in because they think you suck. In fact, if you feel pressure, you don't suck. So congratulations. Congratulations on the fact that there are good things going on in your life and that you have a job where people trust you enough to make difficult decisions, where people trust you enough to take difficult shots and to make difficult impact on the people that are around you and the company that you work for. Pressure is a privilege. It only comes to those who earn it. And so don't shy away from it. Everybody feels a little bit of pressure. Everybody feels a little bit of anxiety. Now, we don't want it to be debilitating, but if you're feeling a little bit, congratulations. You're doing a good job. Pat yourself on the back. So what I'd like to leave, and I know we're coming to an end here, and I just wanted to leave some things open for questions and some other different things here. But what I would like to do is I would like to challenge all of you to a couple of things, and we'll start with this one. The first thing that I would like to challenge you to do, and maybe as you've been listening, or maybe this last week, or maybe the last month or so, something in your heart has been telling you, like, I need to stop doing this. So what I would like to challenge you to do, and this goes around the phrase that I use all the time, is that champions act like champions long before they're champions. We don't just wake up and all of a sudden we win a championship. We put together good habits long before we become champions. So I'd like to challenge you today. What is one thing that you can do, or one thing that you can stop doing today that will help to lead you to a better performance and higher confidence in your life? What's one thing that you can stop doing? And go ahead and write it down on a piece of paper right now. What is one thing that you can stop doing that would lead to a higher level of performance? And then the second question that I'd like to ask you today is, what is one thing that you can start doing? My guess is that your heart and your mind and your soul has been telling you something that you need to start doing that you haven't been doing. What is one thing that you could start doing that would lead to confidence and high performance in your life? And go ahead and write it down on the paper. And then lastly, what is one thing that you can sustain or keep doing that you're currently doing that will lead to confidence and high performance? So you might be doing something that's really good right now. I don't know, maybe you get up in the morning and you work out for an hour. That might be something that you could write down that you know that you need to keep doing. You need to sustain, and you need to keep doing that over a long period for your own mental wellness, for your own confidence, and for your own performance. And I call those the 3 S's. What's one thing you can stop doing? What's one thing that you can start doing? And what's one thing that you can sustain or keep doing that will lead to confidence and high performance in your life? And then take that piece of paper out every once in a while and just kind of look at it. These are the things that you wrote down. I didn't write them down for you. This is something that you think you can stop doing. This is something that you think you can start doing. And this is something that you think that you can keep doing to keep that champion mindset that you need to feel good about yourself and to perform at a high level. And then last but not least, I would like to challenge you for the next week to 1 minute of PUG, P-U-G. 1 minute per day of pure, unadulterated guts. I want you to step out of your comfort zone every single day for 1 minute. Ask her out. Ask him out. Say you're sorry. Ask your boss for a raise. Start that podcast. Start exercising. Whatever it is that you can do for 1 week, I want you to practice 1 minute of pug, pure, unadulterated guts each day. You can do it. And I promise you that if you practice 1 minute of pure, unadulterated guts per day, it will change the way you look at things, and it will change the way that you perform if you step out of your comfort zone. Now, be careful with this, okay? Just a little bit of maybe a warning. Like, pure unadulterated guts for me, I love to talk to people. I love to be in conversations with people. Pure unadulterated guts for me might be to take a tall glass of shut the heck up for one meeting, right? And not say anything. That might be gutsy for me to like not say anything in a meeting. And then for some of you that are a little bit more introverted, it might be gutsy to actually say something in a meeting and actually speak up and speak your mind in that meeting. So be smart about what this means. Be an adult, be an athlete, be conscientious about what pug means. But the idea is that the magic happens when you step out of your comfort zone. And I'm not talking about if you're scared of heights to go walk Angels Landing, next week in southern Utah, where it's 3,000 foot cliff on each side and there's only about 6 feet of cliff that you're walking on. But maybe, just maybe, you go and rappel this week at the indoor facility where you can do it at 10 feet and overcome your fear. Maybe step outside of your comfort zone that way. But I promise you, this is a principle that will be very, very powerful to you today and every day if you can practice just 1 minute a day of pure, unadulterated guts. The great ones that I know are brave and courageous on a daily, and you can do it too. So that's it. Those are some high performance principles that the athletes that I work with, that we talk about, that we integrate with people, and that we share all the time. And I love meeting with high level athletes just because the conversation is different. If there's anything that I can leave with you, and I want to open this up to questions, remember this. I think one of the greatest things that ever happened to me is I had a friend of mine tell me, like, I was sitting around, I was like, I don't know if I should start my company. I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should go for this. I don't know what I should do. And he's like, well, you don't need permission to be great. None of you, regardless of your position, need permission from anyone to be great. You do not need permission to be great. Go be great today just for the sake of being great. Not because you need your dad's approval or your boss's approval or your spouse's approval or your significant other's approval. Just go be great to be great. And that's what I'll leave you with. And then let's open it up to questions. I'd love to hear anything that you have or any thoughts. I just saw a chat come up that I kind of laughed at. Pug life, baby. That's right. Pug life, baby. Stepping out of our comfort zone. I like it. Thanks, Tim.
Riley, thank you so much. I just want to give people a chance to just give a little reaction, share your love in the chat. If you enjoyed today's session, I know I really did. Thank you so much for being here. They're so applicable to no matter what you're doing. I think just applying a lot of these tools and skills. So thank you so much. I'm seeing a couple questions come up right off the bat. One of them being, what are your go-to questions when speaking with high-level athletes? And what are the responses you receive that are most impactful? It's from Peter Paul.
Okay, so this is a good question. I have a series of of about 10 questions that I ask people. They're really kind of funny, but really what I'm looking for is, one of the questions that I ask them to describe the last time they were really struggling in a match and what they were thinking in their head. And there's two reasons that I want to hear what their self-talk is. And I want to hear if they have basic awareness of like what's going on in their lives. It's really, really hard to fix a problem And it's really, really hard to overcome a challenge if we don't even realize what our challenges or our problems are. And so awareness, that's why I preach meditation and prayer and relaxation to a lot of different people, because it helps us to be aware of some of the different things that are going on in our lives. And if we know what's going on, it's kind of like when I get frustrated with coaches when they say, well, what you got to do is control the controllables, but they never tell anybody what the controllables are. So how can I control the controllables if I don't know what they are? How can I overcome a challenge if I don't know what my challenges are? So meditation, prayer, relaxation techniques, deep breathing techniques are a great way to hold up the mirror to your face and notice that you've got a little bit of an acne. And maybe I need to wash my face a little bit more. Maybe I need to change my medicine, or whatever it is that I need to do to get rid of some of my adult acne that I have right now, right?
Love it. Another really good one we had come in was from Damien around the circle and the controllables. But I think this is more of a personal question for you, Riley, but what's one thing in the red or like a non-controllable that you worry about? And what's one thing in teal or within the circle that you think is like the easiest to work on? Again, I feel like this is going to be fairly individual, but maybe you can just answer it from your perspective.
So for my own personal struggle for most of my life, it's been very, very difficult not to worry about what other people think. So if you look at that circle, there's kind of a theme that emerges. A lot of those things on the outside of the circle are other people, right? Like worrying about coaches, worrying about my spouse, worrying about what my kids think, worrying about all these different things. And it's not that you shouldn't worry that you're not being a good person. It's that you can't put so much weight on what they think that you can no longer progress. And once I stopped worrying about everybody else and the noise that's on the outside of the circle, and I can specifically get focused on my attitude, my coachability, and I would say the best one for me is to really focus on a growth mindset, meaning that I can take criticism and take it for what it is. Because another, and I had actually taken this out of the slideshow, but one of the things that the great ones know is that they don't take criticism in the wrong way. The great ones want to be coached, and the great ones see it as feedback. They don't see it as a cut or a slight to them. They just see it as information that they need to get to where they want to go. And so I think that's where I'm getting a little bit better on not focusing on other people and taking feedback and just saying, okay, which part of that is true? Which part isn't true? And now that I have the information, where can I take that to get to where I want to go?
Love it. Thank you so much, Riley. Anyone else who have any questions? We'll leave a minute or so if you want to come off mute or just raise your hand and I can unmute you. But does anyone have any questions? Any last questions?
Ooh, how do you get a person to live in the moment and not be robotic? This is a great question. Thank you, London, for asking this question. Living in the moment is a lifelong pursuit. It's very difficult for all of us. I think one of the things that's super important about living in the moment is building championship level habits that help you to focus on the moment, right? So when I talked about what's important now, when I talked about breathing, when I've talked about meditation, a great meditation app that's out there right now is Headspace or Calm. If any of you have used those are great ways to get yourself to kind of be in the moment, right? And you can tell when somebody's not living in the moment because they're looking in the rearview mirror too much, or they're looking out into the future too much. And I compare living into the moment like driving a car. When we drive a car, it is important every once in a while to look in the rearview mirror. But if you're here in Utah and you're driving through a canyon, a beautiful like canyon, and there's granite rocks on each side and huge mountains, if you're staring in the rearview mirror, there's a good chance you're going to drive off the cliff on the side, and it's going to lead to problems. And on the converse, if I'm looking out forward through my car too much at these beautiful landscapes, too much, then I'm not going to concentrate and I'm going to drive my car off the road. So I compare living into the moment to this. When I'm driving a car down the canyon in Utah, in these beautiful canyons, I need to stay focused on what's right here in front of me for the most part. But every once in a while, I still do need to look in the rearview mirror. And every once in a while, it's really nice for me to look out at the view ahead. But then I got to get back focused on the road. And so that's the best way to think about it, is just not to be too focused on the past or too focused on the future, but focused on the task at hand. And sometimes just sharing that analogy with people can be really helpful. Riley, can you please tell me some technique to sleep well? Yes, I suggest this to athletes all the time. I would try Headspace before you go to bed, 10 minutes of Headspace, which is a meditation technique or meditation app, or you can reach out to me after this is over. You can go to, or you can just go look up online, progressive muscle relaxation. If you can get yourself into a progressive muscle relaxation before you go to sleep, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, it can be very, very helpful to you to go to get to sleep at night. Now, obviously, if it's a little bit more than, basic sleep things, then maybe you need to go to a doctor and talk to a doctor about those sort of things. I'm not here to tell you that there aren't some sleeping disorders or some things that can affect that. But for the most part, if we can get ourselves into the right mindset or into the right relaxation mode, we can sleep deeper and we can sleep longer than we normally have.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I want to leave a little bit of time just to share with everyone how you can kind of stay connected to Riley, stay connected to this community. And so I'll go ahead and just share my screen. If you have more questions, you can fill them through as we move along. But just in the interest of time, I want to just share with, wrong slide. Give me one moment here. Amazing. Riley has a podcast called, it's still not in presentation mode.
Mindset Matters. It's called Mindset Matters.
Mindset Matters. And I believe Marissa will drop the link to that in the chat. I also added Riley's email in the chat. So if you have questions, if you want to continue the conversation, or you're interested in bringing Riley to your own team for some coaching, please do reach out to him, as well as myself and Marissa, and we can connect you directly, whether that's on offsite or via email. We'll be sending out an email after this session. This session was also recorded, and it will be available in our community called Offsite. And Marissa will also put the link to Offsite inside. Great, Riley. This is your information here. We'll also include Riley's contact information in the follow-up email here as well. But if you're interested in staying connected to our community and future events with Learn It, you can head to offsitebylearnit.com. The recording of this session will be there, as well as on our YouTube channel. And also, lastly, this month, we are featuring and partnering with the I Got This Foundation. For those of you that were with us last Friday for the event with Amy Bockerstedt. Amy is a collegiate athlete and golfer, and she has her own foundation that helps fellow athletes with Down syndrome and disabilities learn to play golf and get into athletics and hopefully get a taste of the confidence Amy has through training with golf and coaches. So we invite you all to donate to the I Got This Foundation. Again, just in the interest of this month and building community, we're encouraging everyone to donate on behalf of just being a part of this community to the I Got This Foundation. And lastly, I just want to share with you, again, here's the code to join Offsite. If anyone wants to scan it here, you'll actually join our free community automatically. There's the access to today's recording, access to the recommendations Riley made in terms of resources to take advantage of. You can also get live instructor help. So if you have questions afterwards, our team of instructors will get back to you. and there's discounts on full-length workshops. So I know Riley had mentioned growth mindset being a topic of interest, and we'll be sharing more on ways to learn and stay engaged through the workshops Learn It offers, as well as what Riley offers. And one more thing, just in the interest of more events and these community discussions we have an athlete panel coming up next week on how to adopt an athlete's mindset. We'll be having a couple of favorite athletes and in our own community to feature, and we'll be asking them questions about how they've gotten to where they are in their athletic career. So please stay tuned, and Damon, our CEO, will be on that as well. And for all of you that have been tuning along and following up and attending all of our sessions in July, we'll be offering you a badge of certification in the athlete's mindset as well. So thank you to everyone who's been coming back. I want to thank Riley so much for being here. This has been really an amazing session and so practical. So truly, Riley, thank you for being here. And we're thrilled to be partnering.
I appreciate it. I was going to show one last video.
Oh, yes. We're going to go ahead and, for all of our folks on YouTube, we're going to go ahead and just stop the YouTube live stream here, just for copyright reasons. So give me one moment, Riley, before we go ahead and